This investigation is yielding nothing. Investigators are still trying to figure out who would have attacked this woman and left her for dead in a field. Detective Alan Foote is becoming frustrated.
I start following other leads, suspects in the case.
Investigators identify the person that she was out with the night she disappeared, Peter Demoulias, who's a Greek national, and he also works on a cruise ship.
The police, they asked me what happened with Inna.
He told me that they went out to the Coconut Grove area where they went bar hopping. They had quite a few drinks, and eventually, about 10 o'clock that night, they caught a cab back to his apartment. He gets out, and then she takes the cab to her hotel room.
Why I have to worry? I don't worry. I know I am not on the crime.
Police look into Peter's background. They realize that several months prior, Peter was actually arrested for a dispute between the two of them at a nightclub in Miami.
Peter felt that there were some unsavory characters there and wanted her to leave. So she did not want to leave, and he kind of grabbed her by the arm, and they got into a little argument, and an officer working security arrested him for domestic violence.
Did that make him a suspect in your mind?
Partially.
But then there are people in the hotel that they're also looking at. There is the night manager, George Perez. What does he know?
The very first time I met George Perez, he looked at me and said, "Oh my God, I hate cops."
Pretty blunt, pretty honest.
Oh yeah, I'm used to it.
Was I nervous? Absolutely, I would have every right to be.
So they're taking a good look at George Perez because, first of all, he has this hostile attitude. He doesn't like cops. He's made that very clear. But then there's videotape of him talking to Inna. You can see her arm in this surveillance camera where clearly she's had conversations with him.
He left the front desk unattended and went into the elevator with the victim and was gone for approximately 15 minutes and then came back down alone. I asked him why he was going in the elevator with Inna, and he told me she was a little intoxicated.
George has a master key to every room in the hotel. And so it was important to sort of timeline him the night she disappeared.
She had had a few drinks out with her friends, and I could tell that she was a little bit intoxicated. So I escorted her, made sure she got into the room safely, came back down to my post.
Did she look intoxicated on the tape to you?
No, no. So with that, he became my second suspect.
By now in the investigation, the police realized that not only was she severely beaten, but she was also raped. And so now they believe they have the DNA of a suspect.
So now investigators go back to that friend and the hotel manager to get their DNA, to see if it was a match.
They had asked me if I would be subject to a DNA sample, which I voluntarily agreed to without a problem.
Also, I don't afraid about that.
And then, finally, they think they might actually have a little bit of a break here. Inna is beginning to remember. Fragments of that night are starting to come into focus.
I saw dreams, I saw nightmares. For me, it was very difficult to realize what was the reality, what was not the reality.
What had she said about who she thought had assaulted her?
There were two white gentlemen. I don't think she could give me an age. They were either Hispanic or European accents.
I remember, I guess, at least two other people. I don't remember the faces. I remember like a noise, and I remember a person like standing over you, putting like a pillow or something. And then it's dark, you know, it's just like a feeling that you cannot breathe.
Inna's memory was very iffy, and she kept coming up with slightly different versions of what she thought might have happened. So they did try hypnotism, they tried everything they could think of.
One memory she has is of being taken down the back stairs of the hotel, out the door, and put into a car.
And I remember that something is going down, down, and down, like somebody carries you, and like you're going down, 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 down. It's like a flashes, small flashes of the memory.
She also said that she had vague memories of being sexually assaulted in a car.
I remember a laugh. Somebody was laughing at this point.
The problem is there are surveillance cameras at this back door that doesn't capture any of this.
The cameras working properly, so we reached a dead end on that point. It just didn't fit.
For every step forward, they get a couple steps backward because her memory is all over the place. Then she's certain she remembers something happening in her room.
So her story is changing. How much of a red flag was that to you?
For me, it wasn't a giant red flag. She had some head trauma, some serious head trauma, and I was giving the benefit of the doubt that that's pretty much what was causing the lack of memory.
Investigators obviously are wide open to look at any potential lead and search Inna's room to see if there's any evidence of an attack there.
I'm expecting furniture to be flipped, dressers to be knocked over, bed mattresses all over. I found it as a typical room, undisturbed.
No sign of a fight or assault?
No, bed's unmade. I found beer bottles. I found clothes hanging in the bathroom, but nothing to indicate that there had been any kind of a struggle.
What's hard for the detectives is that Inna is a victim, of course, but they're beginning to think that there's more to her story than either she is willing to tell them or maybe she can tell them.
Investigators are frustrated, and so they go back and look as much as they can at Inna's movements, and it helps them that the hotel has a swipe keycard system, so they'll be able to go back and see exactly when she went into her room.
They notice that Inna is coming back into the hotel, getting on the elevator, and it's 3:41 a.m. But then, when she gets back to her room and she's got that key to swipe that tells what time, it's 3:58. That's 17 minutes. That's a big gap. What happened? Police then have to look at a kind of unsavory theory. Could she be a prostitute? Could she have possibly gone to meet somebody, maybe a John, at his room?
They didn't told me exactly, are you a prostitute? All right? But the questions were like, you know, if I ever had a sex for money, and this kind of question. It was emotionally difficult, very, very, very difficult.
Talking to employees at the hotel, security guards outside, even talking to her, I'm picking up absolutely zilch, nothing to indicate that she was a prostitute.
On the contrary, everybody thought very highly of her, very quiet, very private girl.
So that left you kind of at a dead end at that point.
Right.
The case seems to be going nowhere. And then somebody else enters the picture. An unlikely character who has a pretty unlikely theory.
I could feel it. I knew this was the guy.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.